Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. This is Josh. I'm going to be your presenter today. We're here to talk about some Vanco processing to handle fees. Reconciling the bank statement with church windows accounting when dealing with online giving, okay? That's simply the first thing that sentence, that document talks about is about how church windows and accounting. And why is that? Well, because if we go into donations here, okay, right up here, and I go up to say transfer to accounting, and I'm seeing a bunch of these batches as they are listed in the on the first page of the document there, okay, from the Vanco report, the monthly activity report, okay, with detail, shows the gross amount that the giver gives, right? They give an amount that is before any fees are assessed or anything else, and but the amount that winds up getting transferred into our bank account is oftentimes less that, and specifically when dealing with merchant services or credit card giving transactions, okay? It's always those pesky credit card fees that wind up getting in the way. The Vanco, invoice fee that they charge monthly for your ACH transactions, that's not a difficult problem because that winds up just getting entered as a journal entry or a bill and a payment in accounting to reflect when Vanco, winds up getting paid that amount, okay? But it's those merchant services or credit card transactions that the giver gives one amount and the church ends up receiving as a deposit a completely different amount, okay? And that is where the challenges come into play when users are confronted with dealing with those, and notably with regards to the bank reconciliation. And oftentimes what we have recommended and what we've suggested, and it's in all of our documentation all over our website here, is that we suggest, create an asset account called Vanco Holding, and then when you get those, here, simply change the asset account from your regular checking account to our Vanco Holding account, asset account here, and then once you transfer all of those transactions in there, then you go in and do your processing of your fees in accounting, and you do your transfers from the asset account or holding account into the checking account with the date and the amount of that deposit from Vanco for those. And a lot of times folks are just really, really confused by that, okay? It's challenging. And we're not going to lie, it is complex and it can be challenging. And so having spent 2 or 3, minutes kind of going on about that, what this document that we're talking about here today does differently is it allows you to take a report from the Vanco system, basically import the batches, post them in donations, don't transfer the monies into accounting, take the summary reports that you'll see, and we'll see that on the back of the document there, that shows here's our ACH transactions, here's our gross amount that we've received for the period through Vanco, here are the fees, and here's the net amount that we want to post in to our checking account, okay? But as, again, the second sentence there on the document points out, it says the steps below outline an option to handle online giving transactions imported from Vanco using a monthly processing cycle, okay? So you post one journal entry in accounting that puts the income into the income account. For the gross amount, it posts the fees coming out for the fee amount, and it posts the net deposit amount into the checking account with one lump sum transaction. Okay, that's essentially what we're talking about here, is trying to simplify the process down to as simple or lowest common denominator that you can possibly imagine. And if it does it right, and then it should check out with your deposits on your bank statement each month. So what the report, I'm still on page 1 of the document, talks about is it shows the actual amounts of the summary with the net transaction amounts that we ultimately receive in our bank account each month, okay? And as we can see on there, that for notably the merchant services or credit card transactions, those amounts are different here, okay? So like right here on April 5th, we show an actual gross import amount for a credit card transaction of $256.88, but the report clearly shows that our actual deposit amount was $249.13. And those are kind of scattered out throughout the month, right? So we see credit card on April 5th and on April 18th and 19th and 25th, all right? Well, sure, keep those separate in church windows. And if we flip over to page 2, it talks about importing or manually entering the Vanco donations for the month, okay? So whether you're choosing to consider whether you're going to be considering importing or manually entering this, it doesn't matter. It still can prove to be helpful. And what it's talking about there is if we go up to special functions, settings in the upper left, right down here, you notice in the bottom, let me get out my kind of drawing tool here and see if I can draw some focus. But right here, we've got this section called, and I kind of drew right over the top of it. So let's try that again. Vanco import download options right here, okay? So here, it allows you to set up and create and link batch codes that Vanco will recognize that will keep or separate your credit card Vanco batches from your ACH transactions, okay? We strongly recommend this. Using this as a way of being able to keep those batches separated so you have in church windows a complete separation of those. So setting up the batch codes here, whether you import them or by file or there, you can still use these batch codes to keep them separate for reporting purposes. And we strongly recommend that. And it talks about setting that up on that page 2 of that, okay? Then it says on step 2 there, printing the Vanco report for the month, okay? Now that's the report that you print from the Vanco system, okay? It's called the monthly activity report with detail. And so if you go into the Vanco system, you should be able to print the Vanco report for the month with the detail of all of the ACH transactions, all of the merchant services and credit card transactions with their fees in both detail and summary. And at the top of page 3, it shows a detail section of that report. Okay, so it shows the member ID number, it shows what account it's posted to, it shows an amount, and if we go down even further on that, it shows in this case, the third one down, that merchant services or credit card transaction on April 5th that shows our $256.88 for the credit card that was charged, the fees, the transaction fee, the rate fee, discount rate fee, and then ultimately the net deposit amount, okay? So we're going to take this from a standpoint that we've already created our batches. So if we go back up here to our transfer to accounting, and again, folks, it doesn't matter whether you're importing them from donations directly via file or whether you're manually importing them. Once they're in donations and you get to this transfer to accounting screen, we're not transferring this into accounting, okay? We're not using the holding account stuff that we've normally done. Again, we're trying to keep it, simplify it down to as simple of a process as possible for you. Is that we're basically, once you get to this transfer to accounting window, we're simply going to check do not transfer for each one of these batches. And why we know that is because we've got these batch codes and we're checking use batch codes in the upper left. So we know exactly which one of these are our Vanco batches, and we're not going to post those into accounting at all. Okay? So we're just not sending them in there because we're keeping those separate, okay? These totals match up with the report totals that appear on the very last page, on page 3 there, right? Gross amount. I've gone in and added up all of these total of these 11 transactions here for the month of April that are mirrored on my Vanco monthly detail report, okay? And all of these transactions total the $1,855.13, okay? I verified that. So I'm not transferring that. And all I do is just, click off of it and go back, or I forget, I close out of it now, and if I go back to transfer to accounting, they should not be there. They're not. If I want to see them, I can find them here. I can go back up to the Show Do Not Transfer items, and here they all are, okay, if I should need them. But I'm not transferring these into accounting, okay? Once I've done that, and these are now archived, essentially, or hidden, all the rest of my work is there. Donations are imported, all right? So then all of my work now is going to be done in accounting now. And I'm going to go into accounting, and with a date of my choosing, likely April 30th, okay, we're going to go up here to transactions. We're going to go here to other, and I'm going to choose journal entry transaction. And I'm going to go to enter a date occurred of, say, April 30th. I'm going to put in here under my comments, monthly Vanco deposit, something that notates why I'm doing this. So under my accounts, I've got 3 amounts that I have to deal with, okay? I've got the net amount, I've got my gross amount, and I've got my fees, all right? So here I would choose my account is going to be my gross amount, which is going to be the amount I'm going to be crediting to my income accounts. So in this case, I've got these broken down based on the report that I printed from donations. So I'm going to post these to the various income accounts for their respective gross amounts. So right here, I've got $1,023.53 going crediting to general tithes and offerings. And then I've got a breakdown where I've got building fund income, where building fund contributions of crediting $761.10. And I'm going to tab over again, and I'm going to go, I've got missions income, missions, contributions to missions, where I've got $20 crediting for that, okay? And I tab over one more time, and I've got somebody gave to flowers, and I'm choosing flower income, and I'm crediting that for the amount of $50.50. And if we now notice, our grand total of here is equaling our gross amount on our report, okay? So now we've got the credit side of the transaction now dealt with. Now we're going to deal with our debit. So the debit portion is going to be our fees expense. So we're going to choose Vanco fees expense. And the amount of credit card transactions that we're now posting are $21.55. Whoop, wrong one, Josh. Go back here. Let's go to debit, $21.55. And I tab over again. Now I'm going to choose my Huntington Bank checking account. And we're going to put in there the debit amount, which is the net deposit of $1,833.58. Okay, tab over one more time, and we now notice that our journal entry now balances. Okay, 1855.30.13, 1855.13. I now can do done add to batch and post that. The journal entry is balanced. Okay, I've accounted for all the gross amounts, my net amount into checking, and my fees all in one giant transaction, okay? And I clicked on Add to Batch. If I want to now go up here and I want to post my ACH fees, right? So if I want to do a different or separate transaction for a withdrawal from that, I can choose my fees expense for Vanco again, put in the monthly, whoa, sorry about that, folks, put in my Vanco fees, and I can debit that one for the on page 1 again for the document, which was the $22.06 for my monthly ACH fees if I want, okay, which I can certainly go ahead and do. And if it comes out of Huntington Bank checking there as well, I can then do that as a credit for $22.06. But that's going to be a separate transaction from the amount that I've done for my Vanco net deposit, okay? So I now have dealt with those 2 transactions, and now I can safely post those, okay? So I would post that, and I'm not going to print that. But now when I go back into my bank reconciliation for the month of April, I'm going to see one lump sum journal entry transaction as a deposit for $1,833.58. And if I've totaled up and entered everything and imported everything correctly, then that, if I check that deposit, it should check out with all of my Vanco deposits for the month in one lump sum transaction. So folks, this is, while all the other reports have got enormous amounts of detail, this really simplifies the Vanco import process and posting of transactions and necessary entries in accounting, while not transferring the actual Vanco giving into our accounting at all, okay? So again, just another way of being able to, for you to be able to deal with your Vancos, your fees, your credit, your credit card transactions and fees without having to deal with all the minutia, okay? All the little intricate pieces of that. As long as the totals check out in accounting, it still should allow you to keep it very simple, still allow you to reconcile the Vanco transactions or totals with your checking account while keeping it as simple as possible. And again, folks, as long as the Vanco report can be run, you could do this. I think they offer a weekly report that would allow you to do this on a weekly basis too, okay? So let's see here. Let me review my document here real quick. Oh yeah, the journal entry that I posted is detailed at the bottom of the 3rd page there. And again, a summary report of the Vanco, the fund totals, and the detailed grand total is on the very last page of that document.